get it all!
What is cracking, fight fans? Welcome back to another edition of the Weekend Recap Show presented to you by Comments from the Peanut Gallery. This week, we've got a few different events that we're going to be diving into throughout the program, whether it's in the What I Got Right, What I Got Wrong segment, or in the Afterthoughts. Follow us along on social media. You can follow me on Instagram at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button so we can keep this original MMA content coming your way. We might as well dive right into the thick of things this week. As far as what I got right and what I got wrong, this segment is brought to you by Colorado Native Company. If you are in the market for any sort of HVAC services or products, be sure to hit up my man Robbie with Colorado Native Company. Let him know that the Peanut Gallery sent you, and he will make sure that you are taken care of just like family. So I'm not going to go through the entire list of each card this week just simply because there's so much to go through that we would be here all day. So I'm going to hit some of the bullet points and some of the bright spots as far as what I got right and what I got wrong. So might as well start right off with who my co-host on the MMA Plug presented by DenverSportsBetting.com, 98.1 FM Mile High Sports Radio. My man, UFC middleweight Josh Frem, talked about our friend of the program in Nick Brown. He took on Mandel Nalo. That was a fight that Josh had picked as Nick being his feature fighter of the week. And what I got right as far as this matchup goes, man, they call him NyQuil Nick for a reason. Now, Nick Brown is, I think, by far and large in that matchup, the superior grappler, but he has that Steel City hammer in that right hand, and when it lands and finds its mark, it is absolutely devastating. Josh Fremd is a middleweight. He says that the hardest that he has ever been hit in his entire career. He's trained with big heavy hitters who are heavyweights for that matter. He said that Nick Brown is the hardest hitting guy that he has ever trained with in his entire career. Nalo was a killer on the feet himself. I mean, you just look at his highlight reels of some of the kicks and the way that he's able to employ his game in that regard. He is absolutely lethal. Faraz Sahabi himself said that he is the best pure martial artist that he has ever trained, and that's high praise considering that is the guy who trained the likes of GSP. Now, as far as what I got wrong in that matchup goes, said that if Nalo can find his kicks, it's going to be a bad night for Nick. And honestly, it almost was. That was a tough first round, but the way that Nick was able to dig deep and be able to find a way in that second round, power is always the ultimate equalizer, folks. That is something that, like I say, if you're able to find that puncher's chance, that is an example of it right there in that regard. Nick Brown continues to climb the ranks of the Bellator lightweight division. Who knows? Maybe he has a number next to his name soon over there. In the co-main event for the Bellator 274 card, you had Andrei Koreshkov take on Chance Recountre. Now, what I got right as far as this matchup goes, I said that Koreshkov is an absolute animal who has fought the who's who of the Bellator welterweight ranks throughout the course of the last basically decade. I think he made his debut in like 2013, somewhere around in there in Bellator. But he's fought some of the who's who throughout that time, like I say, and his only losses are to guys like Lorenz Larkin, who's a savvy, tough vet on any given night, Douglas Lima, who was a forever champion in Bellator at welterweight, and then he lost to Ben Askren in a championship fight way back when Ben was on that tear. What I got right as far as this matchup goes, like I say, is that he's a top contender at any given time, and that has to be respected. I thought that this was going to be an immense experience gap. His spinning back kick to Chance Recountre in less than 40 seconds of that fight was able to do such devastating damage that Recountre is going to be out for a considerable amount of time now. He broke 5 ribs with that spinning back kick. Having damaged some ribs in the past and having cracked a single rib once, that was some of the worst pain of my life. I cannot imagine the absolute agony that Chance Recountre must be feeling having cracked 5 ribs. That's just a level of pain that I hope that I never have to experience. What I got wrong in this matchup? Absolutely nothing. I thought that there was a significant experience gap in this fight, and the sub 1 minute finish speaks to that. In the main event, we had Logan Storley taking on Neiman Gracie. Now, what I got right as far as this matchup goes was, so that Neiman has gotten better on the feet, but Storley straight up, he put it to him, man. I've got to put some respect on Storley's name because I thought that even though they were number 4 and 5 respectively in the rankings, this was a main event billing that was said to be a tough matchup. I just thought that they were on 2 different levels, and I was wrong. I got to put some respect on Storley's name, like I say, and that was a very well-matched fight. It went all 5 rounds, and I was wrong. I told you guys that I thought that Neiman was going to be a lock for the week, and certainly was not in this situation. But good thing for all of you guys, if you did listen to me this last week, that was about the only real notable miss that I had. And you'll see why as we go forward. On the UFC card, moving over that direction, at UFC Vegas 48, you had JSP, Jonathan Pierce, who took on Christian Rodriguez. And what I got right in that matchup was I said that I thought that JSP was going to come out and maul this kid. You know, it's nothing against Rodriguez, but Rodriguez he's just a young kid who's coming in on short notice. And JSP was like a wet blanket in there for 15 full minutes. And as far as if I were to say that I got anything wrong, what I got wrong was that I thought that JSP was going to be able to figure out the finish. I thought that whether it come by a submission or by ground and pound, there was going to be an opening or an opportunity for him to close that out before going to the 15th minute, but I was wrong in that regard. Nevertheless, JSP continues the roll, and that man, he's a serious young prospect that I think that people need to start paying a little bit more attention to. This fight, this was such a fun one to see in the long run once the result came about. But David Onama against Gabriel Mowgli Benitez, what I got right in this matchup, David Onama was my feature fighter of the week. I've been watching this kid fight since he was back in the FAC ranks, and he's a kid who got to have the opportunity to meet and hang out with a little bit in Kansas City a couple of weeks ago for the FAC 12 card when Josh got his UFC contract on that looking for a fight card. And, you know, he had this cool, calm, collected energy about him so close to the fight that I thought, man, this kid is about to go in there and he's going to do something special. One thing that I did say for this was that Mowgli was going to be his toughest test. He had a 22 pro fight experience gap advantage that was going to probably show some of it within the fight and was going to present some issues at times for David, and it did. Gabriel Benitez was able to have David Onama hurt at the early portion of that first round, but what I thought was admirable was that warrior spirit and that never say die attitude, and David Onama just bit down on the mouthpiece, blind in one eye, and just swung his way out of it, continued to march Mowgli down, and ultimately found that knockout blow up against the fence. One thing that I also said was, man, it's so fun to watch David Onama fight when he's able to punch and strike from that long to mid range, the way that his long arms are able to throw some of those hooks and weave his hands to find that mark. It's something special to see, and you don't get to see that with all fighters out there just because they don't have the dimensions that he does. They don't have the long arms and the reach that he does, and it's cool to see. I really like watching that kid fight. What I got wrong, call me Mystic Curtsy, because I hit the nail on the head with this one, baby. Moving forward to Jim Miller versus Nicholas Mota. What I got right in this matchup was I said that Jim Miller is the most experienced guy on the entire roster. There is nothing that Nicholas is going to bring forward that Jim has not already seen throughout his historic career. And, you know, Jim was able to do little things that neutralized some of the major threats that Mota brought into the matchup. Some of those things like the inside leg kicks and being able to cut off angles. He didn't allow for Nicholas to really unload on those big hooks and the high kick that he is typically accustomed to being able to fire off. Yes, it's been more than a year, it's like 15 months since the last time that Nicholas fought. So call it maybe a little bit of ring rust at times. Who knows in that case? What we do know from it is Nicholas did have Jim Miller hurt. We know that Nicholas has a lot of power in his hooks. He calls himself the big hooker. And if he's able to land that high kick, it's a tough night. But he really only had one good opportunity where he set it up and threw it, and Jim Miller pretty much shouldered it off. And yeah, I mean, it was something that you can't fault Nicholas at all for. He dared to be great. He went out there and he gave it everything that he had against a legendary veteran like Jim Miller, but that A-10 Thunderbird was able to continue bombs away. That's 2 consecutive knockouts in a row now for Jim Miller. Who knows what's next for the veteran? What I got wrong in that matchup was that I thought that if it were to end by a KO TKO, that it was going to be Nicholas to do it. I just didn't think that with Nicholas being the striker that he is, that he was going to get clipped. But I talked to him this morning, and he is in good spirits overall. He just said he didn't see that one coming, and sometimes the ones that are the most devastating are the ones that you don't see at all. In the co-main event, we had Kyle Daukaus taking on Jamie Pickett. Man, you guys got to call me Mystic Curtsy this week. Like I say, I got nothing wrong. Not a tostada, Holmes. The bet slip proves it. I bet on the Kyle Daukaus submission. He was able to get that submission at the very end of the first round. I mean, I'm talking 4 minutes and 59 seconds. One of the latest into a round submissions that we've ever seen. Obviously not the latest in a fight, but all the way at that ending mark of a round. One of the buzzer beaters of the history of the UFC there. I cashed big on this ticket. A tough night for Jamie Pickett stylistically, coming in on less than 2 weeks' notice. He wasn't in the greatest of condition in that Ugly Man Joe fight just a few weeks back when he last took the cage. And, like I say, this was a matchup that stylistically I saw Daukaus as the grappling practitioner that he is, as well as the momentum that a lot of those Philly guys have right now. I just saw this as being a can't-miss night and a winning opportunity for Kyle Daukaus, and he made me look smart in that regard. In the main event, we had Jamal Hill taking on Johnny Walker. Now, what I got right in this matchup was I said that Jamal Hill has level 10 fuck you power, and he is not afraid to use it. The right hand that initiated that final sequence with Johnny Walker, it looked almost like a glancing blow. It hit him pretty much, it looked somewhat temporal, but more almost toward the upper, the crown of the head, or moving up towards the top of the head, and that's not a spot where we typically see a knockout blow come from, unless you have a guy who has just that otherworldly power in his fists. Johnny Walker basically did the worm backwards into the fence, and then that final knockout shot that Jamal Hill threw, oh my God, was that devastating. The right hand that he threw with Walker's face right up against the fence, that was scary for that matter, because Johnny was already flashed and was not in a good position, but then that was a Shadow Realm sender. That punch right there was something that furthered my notion, or basically put a stamp on it, saying that yes, Curtsy, you were right. Johnny Walker is damaged goods, and he's never been the same ever since doing the worm celebration a couple of years back after that flying knee finish. Johnny Walker is a guy who once had a lot of promise. Johnny Walker is a guy who they at one time said could be the threat to take John Jones' throne. That has obviously not been the case. He's lost the last 4 out of 5 now. He's bounced around a little bit from camp to camp. This is now the second consecutive fight that he's spent with Coach Kavanaugh and Straight Blast Gym out of Ireland out there. So we'll see how things go moving forward for Johnny Walker. He's obviously still got some draw to him. People, for some reason, find him really fascinating and like tuning in. But when the losses continue to rack up, we don't know how much the needle still continues to move for someone in that regard. Whereas on the flip side, you have somebody like Jamal Hill. Oh my God. This was a fight for respect, I feel like, and true validation for someone in Jamal Hill that he's always said from the very beginning that he feels like he's being slept on, that he's a lion in a yard full of dogs, and to keep on watching out for him.
Quick question for everybody out there. Who enjoys getting injured after taking a pop to the chops? Well, as someone who spends multiple hours per week speaking into a microphone, I know I don't. And I especially don't have the time to be making unnecessary trips and visits to the dentist's office. That's why I trust my oral protection needs to Impact Mouthguards. Impact Mouthguards offers custom-molded, custom-fit solutions for everything from mixed martial arts and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to powerlifting and nighttime products. Impact Mouthguard's merchandise lineup offers things for both the badass beauties and the bearded badasses out there. Everything from rash guards and t-shirts to stickers and finger tape. Make sure that you check out www.impactmouthguards.com. Use the promo code Peanut Gallery in the checkout.
And we are back now for another week's installment of the Afterthoughts segment on the Comments from the Peanut Gallery Weekend Recap Show. This Afterthoughts segment is brought to you by Fat Ninja Combat Gear. Make sure that you go and pick yourself up a new martial arts inspired original outfit at www.fatninjacombatgear.com today. Now, the first thing that I want to address from this last weekend was PFL Challenger Series. First week was a challenge to get through. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not here knocking the fighters or downplaying or disrespecting them and their effort that they put out there. They were the men in the arena. They did their thing. But that broadcast and that production, especially for an organization that says that they're the #2 show behind the UFC, was absolutely atrocious. That was the worst broadcast that I have ever watched. You have local shows out there that do things on a much better and higher and technical level. Seriously, that was bad. It was pure chaos. It looked like there was zero preparation and they just took a shit on a plate and threw it on a wall and said, here you go. Now, we sat on an idle aerial shot of the cage with hot mics on the commentators and the panel for minutes on end in between fights. The pacing was absolutely terrible. Did you guys not have promo reels to build up future cards or to build up cards later on, or to build up fights later on in the card, I should say? No sponsor reads, no advertisements, no cutaway to your ridiculous celebrity panel of T. Wood, who was just there for the check, Jeremy Piven, how did he get there? Who knows? Ray Lewis, or Julie Stewart-Binks, who it was literally her first rodeo, and you could tell. Furthermore, I don't need a fucking pep talk from Ray Lewis to watch MMA fights. This was bad all the way around. Whoever thought that it was a good idea to have some Bachelor-style bullshit along with a celebrity vote at the end should be motherfucking fired. I gotta say that the format of that made it even tougher to follow. PFL was already a tough format for a lot of the casual audience to get into, but then having that entire shit show, that's going to be rough, even for hardcore fans to want to stick along for. And I feel bad for the fighters on these next coming weeks if they don't make improvements or don't listen to the feedback that they got, because the fighters deserve better. They're out there trying to change their lives and fight for an opportunity, and the PFL, I feel like, has not done them any justice or has done them an extreme disservice by the product that they put out for the viewers last Friday night. What happened to Mike Perry's power? That's a challenging question that I've been perplexed over ever since the conclusion of the fight last night. Now, Mike Perry used to absolutely spark fools. He would send them to the canvas and they would wake up counting the lights. He has not had a knockout with his hands since 2016. I thought that him going to bare knuckle, that this was a picture-perfect fit. I mean, Mike Perry is someone who, when you say like bare knuckle or when you talk Florida boy, that's who I envision. Someone with face tattoos and is a wild card who just loves to scrap. Now, he did bang, and Julian Lane let him bang, along with Mike Perry let Julian bang. Mike Perry treated that almost like it was Rock'em Sock'em Robots out there. He didn't even begin to form any sort of semblance of defense. He just sat there eating shots all night long. And, you know, I don't know what happened to Mike. I thought that he looked like he was in great physical shape, but that's about all that truly looked great for Mike Perry last night. Yes, did he drop Julian early in the first round and have him hurt? Certainly, but that was the last in terms of true devastating damage that I really felt that I saw from Mike. Did he have some punches that hit and landed hard throughout the fight? Sure. But, you know, maybe call it a little bit more of the experience factor on the bare knuckle side. I don't know. I mean, that's, I guess, giving a little bit of credit to Julian Lane there. But let's be honest here, guys. the Mike Perry of old would have absolutely destroyed Julian Lane. Julian Lane, all due respect to him, is not technical. He's just a brawler, and all around, if you look at his record, it just speaks to him not being very good. Again, a tough guy is willing to go out there and mix it up and bang with anybody, but in terms of being technical, in terms of being skilled, in terms of being a high-level prospective talent, he's not. Just is what it is. Especially when you look at that fight as it contrasts to the main event that we saw with Palomino. Two different levels as far as the bare-knuckle boxing art. Just not even close between the two of them. Will we see Jim Miller make it to UFC 300? Like I said, in the what I got right, what I got wrong segment, Jim Miller kept that A10 Thunderbolt soaring. He had his second consecutive knockout at UFC Vegas 48. Miller has already had a historic run in the UFC, but he truly has the chance to do something monumental that no other fighter in UFC history will be able to say that they've done. If we take the clock all the way back to UFC 100, he had a victory over Mac Danzig. Move the clock forward to UFC 200, he TKO'd Takanori Gomi. He says that he has the dream and the goal of being able to fight at UFC 300. With the fight gods and with health permitting, that's not a far-fetched idea at this point, ladies and gentlemen. By raw projection where UFC 300 should land, it looks to be potentially a monumental card that has the projection raw as it is right now, no setbacks, no stoppage in action, anything along those lines. If we just count by the months, that lines up to be International Fight Week of July 2024. Jim Miller is only 38 years old right now. Yes, he's had a lot of mileage on the body. He's had to overcome some tremendous medical adversity. But with the right training and recovery paired with some strategic matchups along the way, I think that we can see Jim Miller still in the mix 2 years from now, especially when we're seeing him do as well as he is right now. Like I say, that's back-to-back knockouts of two young guns that are coming after him. So you give him some strategic matchups, I think that we can see A10 be able to make it all the way to UFC 300. To wrap this up this week, guys, I just want to send a special shout-out to Mike Swick, who is currently undergoing the battle of a lifetime. He's battling cancer right now. I'm a big fan of the Real Quick with Mike Swick podcast. I got my first introduction to Mike Swick way back in the day, as most of us did with the Ultimate Fighter 1. So, Mike, best wishes, T's and P's to you, and we hope that everything works out for you, buddy, and that the recovery is something that happens quick and you're back on track as soon as possible, my man. Hey, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching. The Comments from the Peanut Gallery Weekend Recap Show is a pleasure to bring you every single week with our What I Got Right, What I Got Wrong, and Afterthoughts segments. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. That helps us continue to produce this original MMA content and bring it for you every single week. Make sure that you tune in to me, Jordan Kurtz, on the MMA Plug presented by DenverSportsBetting.com on 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio on Wednesday nights from 6 to 7 p.m. I co-host that program with UFC middleweight Josh Fremd. It's a great show that we bring to you every single week, along with the Comments from the Peanut Gallery podcast. Again, guys, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We will see you next week.